We represent quite a few businesses who are looking to grow rapidly and sell their business. Either they want to sell their stake in the business or their equity stake in the business, or they are looking to sell the assets of the business. Those are two different scenarios, very different scenarios. And while in both cases you are essentially selling the business, when you start your business, if you have an idea that you want to sell your own equity interest, then there are things you will want to do and have in place, and it will also influence who your potential buyers are. If your view is that you will sell the assets of the business and that the business entity form itself is not what people are interested in, the equity itself is not what the buyers are interested in, then you're probably looking at different buyers or a different valuation for your business, because what people are looking to get is different than the actual equity interest. And so that too influences how you set up your the governing of your business and what you want to pay attention to as you're running your business over the years. I say this to people because a lot of times people start and they have this general idea that they want to start a business, grow it big, and sell it. That's the general idea. But as you get more specific around where the value resides in your business and how that value will get transferred to a buyer, who your ideal and typical buyer would be, when you start answering these type of questions, you gain more clarity on whether you are likely to sell your actual equity interest or the assets of the business. So the more clarity you have around that, the more likely you are to find what you're looking for. If you don't have a clear target, it's hard to aim for it. But if you are crystal clear on, well, this is how I'm going to transfer that value to someone else, either as an asset sale or as a stock sale or a membership unit sale, then you have a better idea of who it is you're looking for, what they look like, what their profile is, and how to find them. So that's on the selling side. That's if you're the business owner or one of the business owners and you want to sell your business. On the buying side, you're looking for different things. And it's interesting that these are the questions that are coming up lately for people and for those who look to register for the workshop, because just this weekend I was listening to a podcast by someone who focuses on representing buyers and sellers of law firms. And sometimes people are buying the equity stake and other times they're buying the assets as opposed to the equity stake. And there was something very interesting that she mentioned in that podcast, which is that a cash sale is not always something desirable for the buyer. And she helped identify that relationship between the buyer that is not always what the seller wants, excuse me. So a cash sale, usually people think that a cash sale is the best thing that a seller can get when it comes to their business. And what she explained in her podcast is that a cash sale attracts a certain type of buyer, and that buyer has certain expectations for the seller that is not always what the seller wants to have. By creating that relationship between the profile of the buyer, that this is a buyer who is willing to pay cash up front, no contingency, they have different expectations when there's no financing contingency. And so those expectations translate into very specific terms when it comes to selling. It translates into a different due diligence process or a more onerous due diligence process because they're looking to get a level of comfort that they now, because that level of comfort is not going to be accounted for after the sale. And so it's the same thing when you are creating your business entity, when you're setting up the governing structure, and when you are operating your business entity on that under that governing structure. If you realistically believe that you're going to sell, being clear about the profile of your buyer helps to create more clarity on how you want to conduct the affairs of the business while it is running. It positions you to have a valuable business to sell, whether it's the assets or your equity stake when it comes time to sell.